Good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of discussions with ChildLine outreach officers. I'm Aaron George, the outreach officer hosting the discussion for today. And before we go into the discussion or the topic for today, I'd just like to tell you all a little bit about ChildLine, what we do, what resources are available to you all. So ChildLine is a non-governmental organization that is there to protect young persons and children. Our target audience would be persons under the age of 25 years old. However, we don't turn away persons who may be over the age of 25 years old seeking assistance that may be in the best interest of a child. So we have three main services or three main departments. The first department is called the helpline. It's available 24/7 and it's a toll-free number that we encourage persons to call at any time, morning, afternoon, lunchtime, Christmas, New Year's, birthday, whenever, to talk about any issues or challenges that they may be experiencing. It isn't just about a line to report cases of child abuse or maltreatment of children. It is a line for children to call if they want a story to be read, if they have an important question on a topic that they may want some answers to, and they may feel like if they don't want to go to their parents or they don't want to go to their teachers, it provides another avenue for them to express themselves. So that's the helpline. The two phone numbers that persons can call would be 800-4321 or 131. Like I said, it is free to call at any point in time, and one of the active listeners, and they're very friendly, will be willing to assist you with whatever the case may be. The second part of ChildLine is the outreach unit, and that's where outreach officers usually go into schools, community centers, camps, churches, playgrounds, and we facilitate workshops on psychosocial issues, things like bullying, anger management, puberty, stress and exams, and teamwork. And the third part of ChildLine is called the counseling unit, and the counseling unit is essentially where persons can receive additional psychosocial support or mental health assistance that they may be seeking or needing. Considering the COVID pandemic that is being experienced globally, the outreach unit and the counseling unit have now been forced to shift our activities to virtual methods of information dissemination and interfacing with persons who may be interested in receiving mental health support. But all of our services still remain very active. Everything is available 24/7, at least the helpline, and of course our social media pages where all our videos are being posted. It's up and running, so at any point in time you could feel free to log on, check out ChildLine's website, which is childlinett.org, or you can even check out the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. ChildLine TT would be the handle for all social media platforms. So that's ChildLine in a nutshell, and today we're going to have a little chat, or today we're going to get some information about dealing with hurricanes during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now the thing is, the pandemic has really put certain things into perspective for us. Worries that we may have had up to a few months ago would now seem trivial today. Businesses, homes, families, organizations have all been forced to find new ways of adapting to the challenges that come with the COVID pandemic, and we've really been forced to find a new meaning for the word resilience in this trying time. But as companies and as families and as the organizations and all the institutions settle into this new way of life, and as we continue to take precautions to keep ourselves and our families safe from the coronavirus, it is important for us to be prepared for other disasters, and we must acknowledge that this is a reality, that there are other challenges that could surface. It's not just about COVID-19 at this point in time. And one of these threats that we need to be mindful of would be the hurricane season. Hurricane season begins on June 1st, and the time to prepare is now. Now is the time to prepare. Every year around this time globally, persons start to review hurricane plans and protocols, looking for minor tweaks or improvements to make things run a little smoothly compared to the way that it would have run the year before. Some of the major concerns associated with both having COVID-19 and the upcoming hurricane season would be like anxiety and preparation, financial costs, all of those things. But it is still important for us to be mindful, and an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So to just give a little foundation work as to what is a hurricane. Hurricanes begin over tropical or subtropical ocean water, and they start when the warm water, moist air, and strong winds collide, and they create a rotating bundle of thunderstorms and clouds, essentially. The hurricane can last for a few hours, or it could last for a few days. But the thing is, meteorologists can actually predict and track hurricanes. People living in the path of a hurricane, they could actually find ways to be safe or to keep their families or their loved ones or their documents or whatever the case may be out of harm's way. This would include having things like an evacuation plan, creating an emergency kit with food and water, looking at other supplies that you may need, and not forgetting about your pets, of course, and most importantly, by listening to the local authorities on the best ways to stay safe. So I'll just give an example of probably a hurricane that might have caused some devastation in recent times, and it will just kind of set the tone in terms of context for us who may have forgotten what type of devastation could come with a hurricane. So let's say Hurricane Maria, for example, and she would have, Hurricane Maria, she would have been between September 16th and October 2nd of 2017, and this hurricane hit Puerto Rico, the Lesser Antilles, so we're talking Dominica, Anguilla, the British Virgin Islands, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos. Many islands were affected by this, and they were actually, a lot of these islands were still recovering from Hurricane Irma, which had just hit a few weeks before. The most severe impact was actually felt on the island of Dominica. There was like wind speeds for up to 175 miles per hour, which is actually 280 kilometers per hour. I believe that's correct. The devastation cost approximately $96.1 billion. Yeah. Overall. So and there were many other hurricanes. I know a lot of people may think about Hurricane Katrina, which struck the United States really badly in 2005, and so many other hurricanes that exist. But the problem is, at the end of the day, this isn't just any hurricane season. The pandemic will take more. Because of the pandemic, humans will be more tempted to push aside the idea of hurricane preparedness because we are more concerned about keeping safe with what we consider to be more pressing or more prevalent right now, which would be the COVID-19 pandemic. But in reality, it will actually make it more difficult to prepare for the hurricane season. At the same time, the tools that have been put in place to deal with hurricanes and to deal with COVID-19 stand. So it's just about finding the right balance of marrying the two, because we never had to deal with hurricane season during the COVID-19 pandemic in particular. So at the end of the day, hurricanes are foreseeable threats, and we have established responses for dealing with it. If anything, the pandemic simply means that we will just need to change the way that we respond to hurricanes when they hit, and actually we'll also need to change the way that we prepare for the hurricane season. There are many obstacles for everyone, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to concepts of preparing for the hurricane season. For example, the workforce is very dispersed. So, for example, the meteorological offices that might provide information may not be working at full capacity, but at the same time, these may be essential services. But of course, we don't know 100% what balance is going to be struck because of the two threats that are being faced. Also, we're talking about persons with less financial flexibility, so persons who may have been able to stock up on certain products for their toolkits, or would have been able to take measures to secure their premises or their house. They may not be able to do so now, which would leave them in a vulnerable position. And also just the mere fact that we're dealing with two threats, like a pandemic and the hurricane season, that could be very anxiety provoking. So at the end of the day, a lack of preparation is going to be the biggest factor for hurricane devastation. So what can we do today, or whatever we do today is going to be what's going to keep us safe tomorrow. So please keep in mind some of the tips that we're now going to make mention of, so at least you have an idea of, hey, maybe this is something I didn't consider before, and if I'm able to take this precaution now, please do so. Excuse me. So, monitoring the storm. The first step number one, first step for effective hurricane preparedness and response is to listen to what experts say and stay up to date on the latest forecasts. Once you are aware, you are going to possibly be able to find a solution, or you're going to be able to know how to move. You'll know what choices to make. Yeah? With today's forecasting technology as well, we will know when storms are approaching. We will know when it could probably hit landfall up to a week in advance. So please, at the same time, while we may be concerned, we also don't want to engage in activities like panic buying, or just over exaggerating the situation, becoming too stressed out, possibly falling into depression and so on. Yeah, we want to still take the precautions, be mindful, do what is being recommended by the expert. This is a good opportunity for your business to take the necessary precautions as well, to communicate with employees and teach them about what can possibly be done. Typically, when a major hurricane forecast is being disseminated by any news outlet, it will happen on a national level. Even if let's say in the United States or in the Caribbean, it's happening in Barbados, you're going to hear news about that in Trinidad, in St. Lucia, in the entire Caribbean, and even internationally. So please be mindful that you want to stay abreast of the news. You want to know what's going on. Even when you think areas might not be hit, there still will be updates on different programs, things on the newspapers, things on social media that will let you at least be informed about what's going on, or what you might be able to do as a citizen or as a humanitarian. During the pandemic, however, we cannot take it for granted that it's only going to be about hurricanes, or that it's only going to be about COVID-19. Airways are going to be sharing both sets of information, and it may seem overwhelming at times, but it's important for us to still remind ourselves that being informed is the best way to know how to function. The pandemic could produce new updates seemingly every hour, and your country, depending on the leaders, depending on the business operations or the medicine that's available, decisions will have to make over the period of months. So what that means is, yes, we will be listening to the news. If I'm not mistaken, when we would have checked the Ministry of Health updates, or the media release that they put out, it's almost like, it's close to 200. It's like 195 or 196 or so, which shows that there's constant information circulating, and you need to be abreast of what's taking place. So it is not that hurricanes will not be covered, but it's just going to be shared. Keep in mind as well, something really important to be mindful of is that our systems currently, they may be a bit overwhelmed. The pandemic is already putting a tremendous strain on typical response systems, for example, disaster relief or healthcare or government aid. Financially, it all depends on the spread of the virus, what stage of the virus the country is at, that type of thing. But many hospitals are almost at near capacity, and this is internationally speaking at the very least. Dealing with some of the cases here in Trinidad and Tobago, we have been able to manage the virus very well because of a lot of the measures that have been put in place, and because of the adherence of the public. But keep in mind that we still have to be prepared for what's coming next. Yeah, we still have to be prepared for what's coming next. So, what are some things that you might want to possibly do? So we spoke about being informed and staying aware. Number 2, you also want to make sure that you have enough food products, because let's look at common factors between the two variables, or the two threats that we're experiencing globally. One of them is that there may be the case of in both instances, it's actually the case of food shortages. While governments may say here what we have enough food available and we have contingency plans in place, prevention is better than cure. Not saying to panic buy again, but at least be strategic in the way that you're purchasing and the way that you're using household items. So example, you want to buy enough food and water to last for a few days. Canned food canned food is a really good idea. Only kind that is acceptable for an event, a hurricane. Please be mindful there may be power outages, and be mindful of expiration dates and so on. So you may not be able to use stoves. So if you're getting canned foods, possibly getting things that you don't need to exert some level of preparation for, you could almost just crack it open and use it. For example, Vienna sausage. Some people think it's gross, but it is still going to put something in your system if push comes to shove. So getting canned foods that also don't require you to add milk or to add water to it would be a good idea. One example is Progresso, I believe. Yeah, that's the name of it. You just have to crack it open and you're good to go. In cases of water as well, if you know you live in flood prone areas, you know water is going to be an extreme challenge. Some persons, what they do is and it's a bit of a stretch in some cases, but I'm saying survival nonetheless. And it's about planting those ideas in your mind. Persons fill up their bathtubs with water, and if they decide to stay at home, and depending on the size of the bathtub, at the very least, it could even if you're not using this water to boil after the fact, you could use it to flush the toilet. Yes, because hurricane, no hurricane, coronavirus, no coronavirus, humans will be humans, you're going to be eating, and it is important for you to be able to live in a hygienic environment. Yes, that's free of infections and so on. So yes, so the average person would need about 3.5 liters of water, which would be like 1 gallon of water per day. Pets, for example, dogs, they need about 1.75 liter of water per day. Cats, they need a lot less. So for your pet lovers, please make sure that you're not just thinking about food and water for yourselves, but you're also thinking about your pets. So yeah, so that's in terms of buying food products. You also want to try and use your perishable items first and leave other items for last that you know might be able to use. If you go and you purchase new items, please try and finish the items that you would have purchased previously before touching the new batch of product. Yeah. So another thing that you could do in terms of food preparation or just managing things would be preparing your fridge and your freezer. If a storm enters your area and let's say there's a power outage or something of the sort, it could take a really long time before the electricity is maybe restored and products that you have in your fridge could become spoiled. What the aim of the game is harm reduction. We want to be able to have the products for as long as possible and ensure that we're not compromising our health by eating food that might be spoiled. So eat perishable items first in anticipation of a power going out. So let's say if you decide, you know what, today I'm going to have one of the canned food items. Maybe I'm going to make corned beef or whatever the case might be. And then you hear something saying that, you know what, there may be a power outage, a storm is going to hit. Be mindful that there may be no electricity for 36 hours or 48 hours, whatever the case may be. Instead of still going through with the meal that you had in mind, please try and use the ones that you have in the fridge, because it is more likely that as it decays, you're probably not going to want to eat it and then you're going to end up tossing it. So eat it first. Yes, it may just mean that you have to change the meal that you wanted. However, you're still going to have the canned meal there for a later date, and that might actually be more important in the long run. You will have to try and delay some of that gratification. You want to fill your fridge and your freezer with a lot of water, and fill your freezer as much as possible. Don't try not to leave too much space in it. Of course, you don't want to pack it that you damage it, but at least you want to have enough bottles of water filled, have ice that is made, and you want to store as much water and fluids as you can in your refrigerator. Reason being, if you have a lot of ice, if let's say you have meat products and so on, it will keep the fridge a little colder for a longer period of time, especially if there's a power outage. So let's say you had no ice in your fridge. From the time power goes and the fridge starts to cool, your food products are now going to be at risk. However, if you had a lot of ice in there, the ice would take some time to melt, and while that is taking time, it would still allow the food products to last a little longer. Sometimes you might be able to rest the ice on top of food products to sustain it. For example, if people go to fishing and they caught a fish and they threw it in a cooler with some ice, it will preserve it for the period of time. You want to put ice in the freezer, put them into plastic bags as well. So fill little spaces, fill it with water. So if you have plastic bags, just fill the plastic bags with water and drop it into the odd space. Soon enough, once it gets frozen, you're going to be able to remove it and use it for something that might be valuable. So just a little question, why do you really want to freeze it? Just to reinforce, you want to do so because it will take longer for products to thaw, and if power goes, things will last a lot longer. It's about harm reduction, having as much as possible. Yeah, so that more or less covers things as it relates to your cupboard and to your refrigerator or your freezer. Here's another list of things that you'll probably want to have if you're going to be engaging in number 3, which is preparing a toolkit or a hurricane kit, a survival kit. There's no one name to call it, a safety kit, whatever it might be. But a kit that you grab and you go with, that would have important things that you would need in the event of an emergency. So here's a list of your preparedness kit, so to speak. One, you want to have a first aid kit in it for any minor injuries that you may have, probably some methylated spirit to kill germs, peroxide, hydrogen peroxide, that is, band-aids, clips, Savlon, whatever products you use, tablets if you're allergic to anything, allergy medication. You want to have all of those things with you. Also, you want to have battery operated or hand cranked weather radios. Reason being, some of us may say, oh no, that's okay, I have my cell phone. If current goes and you don't have electricity to charge your phone, you don't have a cell phone. It's no good to you if the battery is dead. In that case, you also want to probably have portable chargers, so stock up on portable chargers if you can, and make sure that they're fully charged. It's no good to you if it's not charged completely. Keeping in mind that these things don't last forever, so at some point, once electricity is not restored, you're not going to be able to rely on this device. You also want to have flashlights, battery operated, please and thank you, and have spare batteries as well. Very, very important. Candles and lamps are also a good idea to have, and matches or lighter. Of course, it depends on the age of the individual. You'll know who would be carrying these items. I strongly don't recommend that parents give children these types of items to carry. You shouldn't leave children alone in emergency situations like this. Also walk with a 3-day supply of water. You don't know how long you're going to be wherever you have to be. Also food that doesn't need to be refrigerated or cooked. Good ideas for having. Prescription of your drugs, tools for emergency repair. So maybe if you could have like a little pliers, if your dad could walk with like one of those little knives or something like that he could use, a little piece of rope, some twine, whatever it might be that might be able to help build a pitcher tent, whatever you might need. A local map if you're not familiar with the environment. Emergency whistle in cases of emergency where you're stuck under, let's say, rubble for whatever reason. You're at least able to get that help. And I always think about whistle. When I think about whistles, it always reminds me of Titanic and so on, when Rose would have been in the water and she was blowing the whistle and so on. It drew the attention of the Coast Guard officers, and she was able to be rescued. So you also want to, well, I spoke about the portable chargers, and you want to have your important documents in a sealed plastic bag. And these are not things that you want to be preparing the day that you hear a hurricane is about to hit. You need to start preparing these things from now, because unless you get new documents between now and the hurricane, the documents that you have will be the documents that you want to take. So start making your photocopies or whatnot and put them in those Ziploc bags, those waterproof bags, and use them. Send them and pack them away. And also you want to work with some cash. If you have a card, sure, by all means, but still you want to be able to have cash. Make sure you have change to move around, because taxi drivers may not be able to take links. Some, if power outages are there, cards may not work. So having the cash is a good backup plan or contingency plan to have in place. Yeah. So those are three things so far. So we spoke about being informed. We also spoke about what to do when it comes to food and your refrigerators or your cupboard. We also spoke about a toolkit that you could create. Now the next thing we want to talk about is fortifying your home, or making your home very strong or stable, so that it is protected during both threats. So taking into account the pandemic, the situation is even more uncertain, and in previous years hurricanes have caused so much devastation, so many islands, so many deaths, so many displaced. So what are some of the things that you can potentially do that could help you, aside from having things like personal protective equipment like face masks and so on? One, you want to probably try your best to secure your windows. Close up all your doors and windows, and this is not just closing it to the hurricanes, but you're also closing that on coronavirus as well. Right? If you don't know where hurricane shelters may be, or you don't have enough material, please, you could always do a quick YouTube search of contingency materials or plan B materials that could be used to secure your windows and your door from, for example, harder rainfall or objects that might be thrown because of the passing of the hurricane. It is also a good idea to reinforce your garage doors so that everything that is in there is protected as well. If you have pets, it will be a good idea to probably bring them inside, because it would be a bit cruel for you to leave your pets outside to face the storm literally while you're inside safe and protected. You also want to learn how to turn off your gas and the power to your home in the event that there's flooding or anything. You don't want to be electrocuted, or if telephone lines fall or electrical wires fall, you don't want to risk being shocked. So being able to turn off the power, at the very least for your home, could provide some level of security for you and your loved ones. Excuse me. You want to make sure that the tools that are needed to do that job would also be accessible. If you're not sure how to do this, it would be a good idea to probably seek professional help from like an electrical company for further instructions. When the storm hits, you may not be able to enact all of these safety procedures, so please be sure to listen to officials during this time in regards to turning your utilities on and off, because sometimes they miss you and say, here, this one, you need to turn everything off, or it's safe to turn it back on. Part C of this would be in terms of fortifying your home or securing your home. You want to cut down trees and branches that might be close to your house or close to your car. Why? Because of the strong winds. Like I mentioned earlier, they're extremely powerful. It is possible that branches or trees, fruit, parts of people's houses could get thrown, and the force at which it's moving, it could actually cause a lot of damage to your house, breaking down walls, injuring persons on the inside. So by cutting it down, yes, you may not want to do so, but it is a precaution, and like we said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Remove dead trees and bushes. It's also a good idea if you have very thick bushes outside of your house to trim them a little bit. Why? Because it will allow the wind and the rains to pass through it. If it's very thick, it almost acts like a sheet, and it'll be easier for the force of the wind to pick it and project it in a particular direction. That's why if there are those signs that are being hung, they usually cut a lot of holes in it. It's for the air to be able to pass through it. So yes, that's another thing that you probably want to do. And if possible, you want to designate a safe room. What is a safe room? This is in the event that the integrity of your house becomes compromised. So let's say for whatever reason the front door gets slammed in, and there are a bunch of people running in the streets trying to find somewhere to go, and they happen to run into your house for whatever reason. It seems a bit far-fetched, but you never know. Life is life, right? the safe room would be the place that would have no windows and will just have that one entrance and exit that persons on the inside will be able to lock, and it's a place for you and your family to retreat to if the storm becomes too severe or if there's some particular risk of invasion. Make sure that there are some supplies already in the place that you're gonna go, because you don't know when you're going to really be ready or going to be put in this situation. So if you just have to run and get into that room, at least it will have a few things inside of there for you to hide out for a little while. That means a little bottle of water, probably a phone, radio, some sort of weapon, if depending on the case. You may need to have some canned items. Please, those things are good to have in that type of room, right? And also another thing is to ensure that your house insurance is up to date. If you own a home, the hurricane season may not be the best time for you to now try and get this, because rates might be particularly high. But if you know that you have it already, or you still decide, you know what, I'm going to try and invest in this, ensure that your house insurance, you have a package that is associated with flood coverage in the policy, because sometimes this may come separately from insurance agencies, and just in the event that you have major damage to your home, you want to ensure that you'll be able to rebuild and restore the home that you had after the devastation or after the hurricane has passed. So those are some things that you want to do with fortifying your home. And now we're going to talk about possible escape plans. It's always important to have a way to get out of the situation, and it is important to have multiple escape plans. Why? Because hurricanes, they move very slowly, and they could give you some time to make solid plans, but there is the possibility that it could change its speed and it could change its direction. And if you only have one path that's associated as a get out plan, and the hurricane changes its course and goes in that direction, then you're left in a very vulnerable position. So you want to ensure that you have multiple plans for getting out, so that you would know which one to enact depending on the updated information that you would be getting from your radio, where you have your spare batteries and so on and so on. Yeah? Okay, good. So you also want to think about the local evacuation routes that have been established. So that means checking local city websites, or checking out the Met Office websites, just for information flyers, going on to the ministry pages, wherever, and being as updated as possible. It's a really important idea or notion for you to keep your kids informed at this point in time. Do not think that it is just about you being the parent or you being the adult, or adults having to manage the situation. Children need to try and understand what they're going through, and we also need to use it as a teaching opportunity for them, so that they have an idea, oh wow, this is what is expected. So it will mean that you have to educate yourself, and you would have to put some time aside to educate these individuals as well. Also, if you need them to, if they, let's say it strikes 2 o'clock in the morning, and you suddenly have to wake up everyone and tell them, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to evacuate. We need to get out of the house now. The roof has blown off or something. You don't want to now be teaching them what needs to be done. You want them to know what they have to do, and that might mean that you're actually going to probably have to do a run through with them of the evacuation plan. Do it. It's a really important thing to do. Yeah. Also ensure that your young children have important contact information stored on their phones if they own a cell phone, and if for older children, if they can't remember the phone numbers, similarly make sure they have the contact numbers stored. Pair children up if you have a lot of kids, so at least there's like a buddy system in the event that there needs to be some level of separation, as much as you might want them to stay together. If you know that you have very young children, what you can do is on the inside of their clothes, in a plastic sealed pack, pin important contact information. You don't want to just pin it with a piece of paper and then they had to jump into some water and the paper gets wet and it rips off. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you have that available, and also you want to keep your gas tank in your car. You want to have it at least 3/4 filled at all times. Why? Because in the event that there's a storm hitting or the hurricane is about to hit, nobody has time to go to the gas station to now fill up their vehicle. So you want to at least have some that would be able to get you as far as possible. Yeah. And once you're able to follow some of those guidelines, it will be extremely beneficial for you during the COVID-19 pandemic. Like I said, preparation is the biggest factor. You need to be mindful that prevention is better than cure. I keep saying it, and I will keep saying it. Prevention is better than cure. So stay informed, know what you have to do, and whenever you think that you have misinformation, please do have due diligence and get the correct information. Yeah, get the correct information. Do not take it very lightly. Don't panic at the same time, but at the very least, be sure, be aware of your evacuation plans. Let your family know what's going on. Keep up with the news. Prepare your toolkits. Have your safe space in your home. Get neighbors involved, get family involved, get everyone involved. And if you have any additional information that you think would be beneficial, please remember to share it with those persons. Let them know what resources are available to them. And with that being said, that brings me to the end of this little discussion or dissemination of information about hurricanes and how things may be different for us during the pandemic. There's one other point actually that I'd like to raise, and the point is that because of the pandemic, the way that we may respond to hurricanes, it may actually change. For example, let's say there's a particular country, a particular town that has serious devastation taking place because of a hurricane. Usually there may be mass gatherings taking place at emergency shelters. It could be a hospital, it could be community centers, it could be a school. But because of the COVID-19 laws or restrictions that may have been put in place during this time, these types of gatherings may not be possible. So what do we do? Do we stay at home? Do shelters only allow 5 people? Do we stay on the streets? What do we do? And the only way to know the answer to that is to stay informed as time goes by. Keep in mind that the hurricane season begins on June 1st. So stay abreast of your local news channels, and always remember to check out ChildLine's social media pages. It's ChildLine TT. Our website, childlinett.org. You can contact our helpline. It's available 24/7. It's toll-free and it's confidential. So don't worry, your business not going to end up on the street. And the 2 phone numbers that you could call, 800-4321. And we're all there to support and be a helping hand through this time. So I'd like to thank all the viewers for viewing, and please remember to like our pages, turn on your post notifications so you can stay abreast of ChildLine's latest posts, and you have a fantastic Friday. Thank you. It was a pleasure.